A boy walks alone into the valley. In his hand, there is only a sling, 5 smooth stones, and a certainty that seems like madness. Standing before him is Goliath, a warrior covered in bronze, nearly 3 meters tall, carrying an enormous spear, and a voice powerful enough to make an entire army tremble. For 40 days, that man had challenged Israel. 40 days of fear. 40 days in which not a single soldier dared to face him. Not even Saul, the king of Israel, the tallest man in the entire nation.
Samuel, where are you now?
But on that day, something different was about to happen. Because the boy about to enter that valley was not a soldier. He was only a shepherd. His name was David. And no one there could imagine that this boy would become the greatest king Israel had ever known. But no one could imagine that, decades later, the same man who defeated a giant would commit a sin capable of destroying his own family. David's story is not simply a story about faith. It is a story about power, about fear, about falling, and about a man who discovered that the most dangerous enemy is not always standing in front of us. Sometimes it is inside us. But before that valley existed, before Goliath, before the throne, David was only a forgotten boy in the fields. Bethlehem was small, a town surrounded by hills and fields where sheep grazed during the day. There lived a man named Jesse. He had 8 sons. The older ones were strong, tall, impressive. And, in the eyes of men, they seemed far more prepared for great things. But the youngest son was different. His name was David. While his brothers stayed close to the family and learned to fight, David spent his days alone, taking care of sheep, sleeping beneath the open sky, enduring the cold of the night, and protecting the flock from predators, lions, bears, dangers no one else could see. It was in that isolation that David learned to fight, not on a battlefield, but in silence, with a sling in his hands, and God as his only companion. Perhaps that is why, when men later looked at David and saw only a shepherd, God already saw a king, until one day, the prophet Samuel arrived in Bethlehem. God had rejected Saul as king of Israel, and now Samuel had received an order. He was to find the next king. One of Jesse's sons had been chosen. Samuel looked at the first. He was strong, but God said, "Not him." Then came the second, "Not him." The third, "Not him." One after another. None of them. Samuel finally asked Jesse, "Are these all your sons?" Jesse answered that there was still the youngest, David, but he was out in the fields. He had not even been called to the gathering. Perhaps his own family did not believe he could be the chosen one. David arrived, still smelling of the fields, still dressed like a shepherd, and Samuel looked at him. Then God spoke. It was him. Samuel took the oil and poured it over the boy's head. David was anointed, but nothing changed immediately. He did not receive a crown. He did not receive an army. He did not receive a palace. He went back to the sheep. The king had been chosen, but the throne was still far away, and David would have to wait. While David cared for sheep, Saul began to change. The king who had once been chosen by Israel was drifting further and further away from God. His heart became consumed by fear, by insecurity, and by the need to control everything around him.
The prophets are silent. What must I do now?
It was during this period that David first entered the palace, but not as a warrior, as a musician. Saul was tormented by a deep anguish, and whenever David played his harp, the king found relief. The shepherd was now inside the palace, and no one there knew that this same boy had been anointed to replace Saul. Then war came. The Philistines gathered against Israel, and among them was a man named Goliath. For 40 days, he stood before the Israelite army and repeated the same challenge. Choose a man. Let him come and fight me. If he kills me, we will become your servants. But if I defeat him, you will become our servants. The army of Israel listened and stepped back. Saul listened and remained still until David arrived. He had not come to fight. His father had sent him to bring food to his brothers, serving in the army.
Can you tell me where the sons of Jesse are?
But when David heard Goliath insulting Israel, something changed. He could not understand how everyone could remain silent. He asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?"
The battle is not ours, but the Lord's. He will deliver them into our hands. Look upon that valley, for victory is prepared.
David did not see only a giant. He saw a man challenging the God of Israel, and he decided to face him. Saul tried to put his own armor on David, but David could not walk. That armor belonged to a soldier.
May the Lord be with you, boy.
It is very heavy.
This will protect you from the Philistines.
I cannot walk in these. I am not used to them.
He was a shepherd, so he took it off. He picked up his staff, chose 5 smooth stones, and walked down into the valley. Goliath looked at him and laughed. A boy, without a sword, without armor, without experience in war, Goliath despised him. But David did not retreat. He declared that he was coming against him in the name of the Lord. Then he began to run, not away, toward the giant. David placed a stone into his sling. He spun it, faster, faster, until he released it. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant fell. The man who had made an entire army tremble was now lying on the ground. David ran toward him, took Goliath's own sword, and finished the battle. When the Philistines saw their champion dead, they fled, and Israel advanced. That day, a shepherd had brought down a giant. But that victory would come with a price, because now everyone would know David's name. And among those people was Saul. And this is where part 1 ends. A forgotten shepherd, a fearless faith, and a giant standing before him. David had only a sling, 5 stones, and faith in God. But what happened next would change his life forever. The story continues in part 2.